All right, here we go, taking a look at notes on the rock cycle. I'm going to leave this thing on the screen just so I can see my timer, but I'm going to try to keep it out of the way. So we're taking a look at notes on the rock cycle. You can start it here. You can start on the vocab. Go ahead and jump in. What are rocks? There's not necessarily rhyme or reason to the coloring on here. I do apologize. Rocks are made up of grains that fit together. The grains can be different colors, shapes, and sizes. Rocks with rounded grains are more likely to absorb water, so those are porous. Grains is exactly what it sounds like. Think about like grains of sand, or when you turn like wheat into grain to make bread. Same kind of concept. Those are grains. That's what we're looking at with that. So we got three main types of rocks, and we're going to get into definitions of these in just a minute, and then further explanation as we go along. So sedimentary, igneous, and metamorphic. Those are the three types of rocks that we are specifically looking at. And so said we're going to be jumping in and looking at what they are. So igneous is formed by the cooling and hardening of magma, lava. Sedimentary is formed by the layering of sediments. And metamorphic is formed by heat and pressure. So that's what's going on with that. Let's get a little more detail. Sedimentary rocks, the rivers carry or transport pieces of broken rock as it flows along and then settles to the bottom, and the rocks are deposited. So these deposited rocks build up in layers. Those layers are called sediments. And that process is known as sedimentation. That is why they are called sedimentary rocks. So that is the concept with that. So it could just be pushing along sand, larger pieces of broken rocks, etc., etc., dirt. And then as it piles those things up, that turns into sediment, builds it up in layers called sediments. That is your sedimentation. So those are sedimentary rocks. Formation of the sedimentary rocks, the weight of the sediments themselves on top of one another squash the sediments on the bottom. We call this compaction. So at this point, we're not getting rocks, we're just kind of crushing everything together. If you think about like a trash compactor, or if you were to step on a pile of garbage, with your foot and push it down. So the water is squeezed out from between the piece of rock and the crystals, the different salts form. And so this is really just talking about how water is getting out of the rocks, which is causing those different. It's funny, we say crystals here, and it was grains in the first part, so it's just letting those grains kind of just formulate on their own. Those crystals form a sort of glue that then sticks the pieces of rock together, and this is known as cementation. That's the same as cement. That's the way that cement works. Cement is just a combination of different rocks, sand, and water. So this is actually the same concept that happens here with sedimentary rocks. So cement is man-made, but kind of an example of a sedimentary rock. So literal, natural examples of sedimentary rocks are going to be chalk, just like the same chalk that we use to draw on the chalkboard, limestone, sandstone, and shale. So all of these are very light in color, tend to be kind of white or tan in color. You see buildings made out of limestone sometimes. So they're very, very, there's texture to them because of how they come together. As we're looking at with sedimentary rocks. The igneous rocks, as we know, of course, the inside of the earth is very hot. So hot so much that it can actually melt rocks. Those molten rocks, of course, are called magma. And when magma cools and solidifies, igneous rocks are formed. So igneous rocks really is just referring to cooled magma that has solidified. So examples of that are going to be basalt, granite, and obsidian. All these are pretty hard substances because when the magma actually solidifies, it turns into a very hard type of rock that can be very strong and very good for building materials and that kind of thing. You see granite countertops in people's kitchens sometimes, and it's because it's a very strong material and also a very attractive material. So that's why people like to use it. Okay, our metamorphic rocks, if you're familiar with the term metamorphosis, that's what we're looking at with here. So the metamorphic rocks, they're formed from other rocks that are changed because of heat or pressure. So it's